Hey guys, welcome to another episode here at Peak Health Revolution. What we're going to talk about today is one of the most important things when we're talking about building muscle over a long period of time. So, we're going to talk about how you need to have progressive overload. When you're doing that, I'll explain what that is to you guys, and then also the importance of having maintenance phases and understanding that there's other aspects to life and things are going to come up, and that's when you need to focus on the maintenance stage versus really pushing things forward. So let's get into that here. Long term, when we're talking about wanting to build muscle mass or get to a certain body composition or goals that we have, we want to keep these two things in mind. So progressive overload, we're going to get into that. I'm going to tell you guys a little story that I think you guys will really help you understand that. And we're going to talk about why we need certain periods of maintenance and not always be pushing forward super hard, and take that into the mix of the rest of our life and how we kind of balance those two things out. So we'll start with progressive overload. So that's one of the keys to building muscle mass or building cardiovascular capacity, anything like that. Whatever your goals are, you have to do it with progressive overload. So basically what that means is you can't just go in day after day and do the exact same thing. So if we took, say you wanted to build your chest a bit more and you were going to go do bench press, you can't just go in and do 3 sets of 10 at 135 pounds every single week for the next 6 months and expect to get a significant amount of change. At the start, you might get change if that's a heavy load for you, but at some point it's not going to be hard for your body anymore. So you need to either add more weight, do it more frequently, do more sets or reps. You need to make it more challenging for your body all of the time instead of just staying at one level. When you stay at one level, your body's just like, hey, I can adapt to this. It'll get to that point where it's not that hard for your body to do that anymore, and then you're not going to see the same amount of growth moving forward from there. So we need to always be progressively overloading our muscles and continuing to challenge them with what we're doing, which brings us into the story of Milo. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of it, but when I start to explain it to you, you might be like, oh, that rings a little bit of a bell. I've seen a picture, a depiction of that, something like that. But basically, there's a guy who's walking into town with a full-size bull on his shoulders, and it's like, wow, how did somebody get so strong that they could just grab a full-size bull, throw it over his shoulders, and walk into town, kind of thing? And the thing is, that's not what he did, right? When this bull was born as a little calf, he grabbed that calf, put it over his shoulders, and walked around the farm with it on day one. The next day, he picked that calf up again, threw it over his shoulders, and went for a walk around the farm. And he did that same distance with that same calf every single day, but because that calf was very slowly growing, right, it got more and more and more challenging for him. So there's no way he would have been able to go pick up a full-size bull, throw it over his shoulders, and go for a walk with it. But because he did it from the time that bull was just basically born as a calf, and then as it grew, he grew, right? He was able to do that. So that's a very, very simplified version of the story of Milo, basically a guy being able to carry a full-size bull on his shoulders. But obviously that happens over a period of time of continuing to push yourself. So think of that the same way for you guys. Whatever your goals are, is you don't just get there overnight, and you don't get there by doing the same thing every day. You have to continually make it harder and harder on yourself to get to that goal. So that's one aspect of reaching those goals that we want. But at the same time, we have periods of maintenance. And why do we need basically those periods of maintenance? Is because other things in life come up. There's very few of us who are our job essentially is training. It's just something that we are doing to try and manage our health, or maybe we have goals, maybe we want to do X, Y, or Z. So we're starting to train towards those, right? So there is definitely times where you push that forward and you really work on that progressive overload, train, make sure you're recovering well. But then at other times you have to realize, right now in my life, given everything else that's going on, this isn't my time to push that forward. But how do I maintain the level that I'm at without it going back down, right? So if this is the graph of our progression, we want to be able to go up, but then instead of it coming down when we're not focused on it, and then when we focus again, having it come up again, we want to see it go up, and then when we're not focused on it, be able to maintain that. And then when life says, hey, I got time for this again, to see that go up. Because I understand that there's Say you're an accountant, the last couple months have probably been really busy and stressful for you as you're getting everything done for people, getting their taxes put in, and maybe you're a business owner and you've been doing your taxes. You have less time for that other stuff. Maybe in the summertime you really love the outdoors, you're trying to build a big kind of bulky, strong body. But then the summer comes and you tend to just go and do a ton of hiking. So at that stage, you need to really maintain that muscle mass that you've built up while you're out doing those other activities. And then once it goes back to winter and that's your kind of your gym time, then you're able to build again instead of having it drop off. So you're always focusing on having a certain level of maintenance in there. Like what's the bare minimum I can do to stay where I'm at and not fall behind, and not necessarily be so concerned about always progressing forward. That's great. We want to strive for that. But there's always going to be times in our lives where that's just not the case. Whether that's I'm traveling, I have other work commitments, I just had a baby maybe, and there's just more work to do, something like that. Things are going to always come up in our life where it's not our perfect time to push forward. So instead of stressing ourselves about not being able to push forward and kind of getting down on ourselves that I didn't get into the gym as much as I wanted or whatever it is, realize that life is always going to come in waves for you guys. It does for everybody, where you're going to feel more motivated, you're going to have more time, all of these sorts of things. So when you're feeling really good, that's when you push really hard. You do that, really focus on that progressive overload. And when things are slowing down a little bit for you and you're just busy with other stuff and you can't be in the gym as much, that's when you really focus on like, what do I have to do to maintain where I'm at so that the next time I'm ready to push forward again, I don't have to start from down here. I get to start from where I was at before and continue to climb upwards versus, oh, I totally let things go. I came down to here and now I have to push upwards. And same thing if you guys are focused on multiple things. So say, for instance, you want to run along, say do a half marathon this summer, and you also want to maintain a certain amount of like muscle mass and strength. You're going to have to kind of switch and balance those two between each other, right? So leading up to that marathon, you're going to have to start training more for it, but still do a certain amount of strength training to maintain that muscle mass that you already have. And then once you want to focus on the muscle mass and like building muscle mass again and keeping that strength on, then you're going to have to taper off on that long endurance type stuff. But then if you want to do that again the following year, you're going to have to continually balance those two out. So you always like have that progressive overload in mind, but at some times you're going to be focused on maintenance in one area while pushing forward in another, or maybe you're just maintaining the physical body that you have right now and you're pushing forward in some other aspect of your life. Maybe that's building a house, building family, whatever that is for you guys. Just understand that there's always going to be that ebb and flow with life and your physical fitness goals and your health. So understanding that basically that story of Milo, where it's like, this is how we progress forward, but also here's how I maintain this and don't fall back down that hill when I'm not able to push quite as far forward. So that's what I got for you guys this week. Hopefully that's really helpful to you and gives you that long-term sight essentially, so that you're able to see like, oh, it's not just about this month or next month. It's about that bigger picture of like, I'm going to be taking off like crazy here. Things are going to slow back down a bit. I'm going to go again. And balance things out a little bit with life. I know there's so many different aspects to it, whether it's a new relationship, a new job, moving. There's so much to play with there that we have to always remember that there's not just one single thing that we have to focus on, and other aspects are going to come into our life too. So that's what I got for you guys this week. Hopefully that's valuable to you and you kind of understand both what progressive overload it looks like and what those maintenance phase looks like. If you have any questions about it though, drop it into the little comments there and I will be sure to answer those for you guys. You guys, thanks so much for listening. If this video was valuable to you, I want you to hit that like button, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.